get it on the internet, even if we have to crawl over fragments of silicon.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me as always is Galax and Pettyfan, the archaeologist du jour.
More on that later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's thematically appropriate, given what we ended up picking. But, right, let's get to the news, such as it is. Petty, why don't you start us off this week because, well, you have things to talk about that, well, ended up affecting the show, quite frankly.
Yeah. Originally, Monday, I woke up and my dentist's office rescheduled me to Friday, which we were having a show this week. So we had to reschedule that show. And then I got a call today that says that the dentist's office now wants to reschedule me to December 1st.
So, are they going to put you on Novocaine or anything that, any kind of numbing drugs that we should be aware of?
Not that I know of. Like,
Okay.
they're probably gonna use Novocaine, but,
My point is, I looked up the date of December 1st, and that is a Wednesday.
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if you're going to be cognizant for, that day.
I should be. Like, I don't think they have to give me, like, any general anesthesia, so, like,
Okay.
as long as I do it in the morning, which I believe it's scheduled for 8 a.m., anything
Yeah.
they would give me would probably be mostly worn off by then.
Okay. All right. Anyway.
As far as other news goes, I mentioned my 360 potentially dying. Well, I got a tool on Amazon to open it up. Thought it was going to be, relatively easy. Oh, I could do wham bam right before the show starts. No. I mean,
The
at
best
least
laid plan- the best laid plans.
still easier to get into than a cell phone, though. At least a modern cell phone.
Well, that might depend on the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
I
yeah,
mean,
once I finish getting into there, I'll see if I can spy something that's went horribly awry that hopefully can bring it back from the dead. Or I need to look for a new 360.
do you use it for anything?
This was more to just get it online to make sure my cloud saves were, or my saves were set to the cloud.
Right.
And kind of hard to do that when the Xbox doesn't turn on. So, like, I occasionally like to play some of my 360 games, but there's been so much to play, especially for the show.
Yes. Anything else?
Other than, like, the Digimon tournament stuff, which I did put in my pre-order for a box of the new set that is coming out end of November. So, yay! Anyway, I think that's it from me.
All right, Goldilocks, you're up.
I'm going to pretend that was a One Piece reference and not a fairy tale reference. Yeah, not a whole lot going on around here. It's supposed to actually be cold for at least part of this week, which will be nice. I could actually break out my winter coat. I like wearing heavier coats when I can. So that'll be nice. And we got a new person at work that I've been actually helping to do a little bit of training on, so that's good. Or that's nice. It'll hopefully help divide the workload a little bit on some of the things that I'm doing. Let's see. I managed to get in an order for the Metroid Dread amiibo set at Best Buy. It was supposed to be in today, but isn't. Apparently, they're shifting it around between stores or something. So, who knows? But I should find out when they get it. Otherwise, not a whole lot. I've been working actually on the DLC that came out for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, the second set, which has some interesting scenarios, although some of my friends don't like it quite so much because it forces you to play as particular characters, and they have certain characters that they do not particularly like to play as. I think that's about it.
All right. I guess it's my go. Let's see. Yeah, it's been a week of destroyed plans. Because Petty mentioned what happened to Friday's show. That's been bumped to next week, and that should go without a hitch, pending anything unforeseen. You might know we have a new Let's Play thing going on this week. That's because our guest contracted some flu-like symptoms and decided to cancel out on Monday. And since it's canceling out on a Monday, that meant I had to find a replacement fairly quickly. And I think I expressed the sentiment here that we're all kind of tired of 80 days at this point, having gone through the game. So, we were almost set to play Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, but that doesn't have a windowed mode, and I haven't explored Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris, which is the sequel to that one. That might have a windowed mode, I don't know. So Heaven's Vault, another Inkle game, got the nod. No. Let's see. Picked up Final Fantasy V, the Pixel remaster.
The Pickle remastered.
Yeah. But that doesn't unlock for another week and some change. And also picked up the bits of Tomb Raider I didn't already own, which was surprisingly little.
Kind of like me and the Sonic the Hedgehog games on Steam.
Yeah, I suppose so. But I have all the Sonic the Hedgehog games on Steam, and now all the Tomb Raider stuff.
My condolences for Sonic Forces.
Yeah, and Sonic Team Racing. And Sonic Team Racing was going for really cheap that one time, $3-4. I don't know what was exactly going on there. Yeah,
honestly, Team Racing isn't that bad.
No, Team Racing is a perfectly serviceable kart racer. It's just it wasn't transformed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Sonic kart racers are kind of in the shadow of Sonic All-Stars Racing transformed.
I mean, it could be worse. It could be Sonic R.
Or Sonic Drift. Yeah, Sonic had a fair bout of mediocre racers back in the day. And I do include Sonic writers in that field as well. I know it has its fans, but I wasn't one of them.
I was, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean, at least it wasn't the cosmic nightmare that was its second sequel, Sonic Freeriders.
Yeah,
I don't even know if that's a good game or not, because I know it's controlled by the Kinect, and therefore nobody ever cares.
Well, no. There are plenty of videos of Sonic Freeriders. That was the meme game to cover.
I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was kind of interspersed with the gay panic because oh hey, there's a mode where two people can hold hands and move in the Kinect field.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, that was shitty. But to say that nobody cared about Sonic Free Riders is incorrect. Like if even if it was just for like the almighty algorithm or whatever, it was covered. It's like no, it's, like a Kinect game that nobody cared about was like Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training that was put out by Bandai Namco. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, but nobody here knew that was the thing that existed, except for me.
Do you feel special for knowing that?
No, it's like I feel no sense of anything towards that.
I feel nothing but apathy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Kinect game that exists. I will say, yeah, I remember it, which is more than I can say for others. That I'm like, there was like there was a Hulk Hogan's game, main event, for example. So, anyway, that's my news for the week. I guess also a bit of a show update. It does look like we will be having an episode of Last News Desk. I know that got canceled at the very last second.
Yeah, we will unless it gets canceled at the last minute again.
Yeah, but there was a bit of touch and go on that Sunday because Mac was having internet problems. Mac has said those are fixed, so we will have to take him at his word on that. And thus, well, merrily we shall roll along to the Let's Play. So Heaven's Vault. This is another game put out by our friends at Inkle. Longtime viewers of the program might remember that we actually covered this game quite extensively a few years ago. I think it was about 2 years that we interviewed the creators about it. In fact, they gave us the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays out in the idiom of Inkle, and that is, say, storytelling and interactive fiction. But it plays out much differently than 80 Days or even another game we have yet to play, Sorcery. At least visually. I think I reviewed that way back in the Talk Shoe era. And we also covered, what was it, Pendragon? But, that was a real-time strategy game with narrative elements. Anyway, this was Inkle's big project a few years ago, where we are an archaeologist named Alia Alrasa. I probably butchered that beyond recognition. So, Alex, how do you pronounce this?
What are we looking at?
Hang on.
Yeah, as you may have noticed, this game is particularly non-Eurocentric.
Which is pretty impressive by a game created by two middle-aged white dudes from England.
Yeah, I would say El Asra.
Yeah. Leia Arasa. So, yeah, that's a name that twists my tongue, so... Leia.
Alrighty, so I guess we're ready to begin?
Yes. Let us begin. Yeah. It is quite the lovely mountainscape. Yeah. This is bringing back memories of 2 years ago. Well, I mean, I suppose it's also worth mentioning that this ended up being my game of the year for 2019.
I didn't play it as much as I wanted to, but I remember enjoying it.
And now the audience gets to enjoy it. See, we still have the story things. Though we have to be a bit faster.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, you can lose your opportunity to make some responses.
Yeah.
yeah. It's also there is more to this game than just choices. But we'll get into that when we get to that. So that means when we pick something, we have to be faster.
Yeah, I'll try and pause so we have a bit of a chance to think.
Fair enough. It's like, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So once again, another thing that's different is it's a full 3D game. Though it's this weird 2D 3D hybrid where the character models are 2D, but the environments are 3D. Like, I guess it looks okay, but I wouldn't say it ever blends all that well. Just because there's such a contrast between the art styles. Yeah. And now I think now we're starting to get into what is the actual central mechanic of Heaven's Vault. That is transliteration.
Oh man.
I think it's actual translation, but yeah.
Like, it could be. Like, I'm trying to remember what the difference was.
Transliteration is it. Well, no, it is translation, but yeah, transliteration is just when you're writing it in a different language, in a different script, usually.
Well, I mean, that is what's happening here. We are taking a script and putting it into, English.
Or whatever language
Right.
you
The
have.
translation is when you take like Japanese katakana and render it as like Japanese, but in English letters.
Right. I guess it's a bit splitting hairs. Point is, we're translating this alien language, and if I'm recalling correctly, it's an actual alien language.
Yeah, they made it up for this.
Yeah, it isn't like Arabic or Farsi being passed off as alien. All right. Well, let's see the choices here. All right. Let's go and who are you? Did she say what she wanted?
I accidentally hit the wrong one, I think.
Yeah. Galax, you pick one.
Okay, where are we?
I'll unpause a bit, so...
How else would I get there?
Zoom.
Or here?
So why has she sent you? Yeah. Resume. I need to see the...
Sorry, I'm not always getting these before you pause.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're pausing a little too fast. Let's go with, do you have a name, robot?
I think you do have to ask its name at some point.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't.
Yeah. Now Petty is back in control.
Mm-hmm.
So I can question the robot or just go into the office.
You can question. I think you can question the robot. Yeah. Press X to question.
As long as it's not press X to end slavery.
The hell?
You don't remember Detroit Become Human?
Oh, right. Sorry. I try to forget as much as I can about David Cage games.
We were about to have a very long talk about something else, weren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, resume. Let's see. Tell me what you want.
Ah.
Tell me what you need. Let's approach. So why did you call me here to value it then? I mean, if she wants to be sassy, she'll get sass.
Past tense question mark?
B.
I see scribbles.
Those are going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
Should I start playing the Zelda tune now?
Not yet. Because you haven't actually discovered anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
See, now.
You can edit these later to some extent.
Okay.
And since it's been like 2 years since I played this, I do
I
not.
think it's holy, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I've. Yeah. Yeah. Holy Emperor, if I'm remembering correctly. Though I think you have to get this one right. Yeah, this is
You can. I think you can proceed with it wrong, but you figure out that it's wrong fairly quickly.
right. My point is, this is actually like your first. This is the basis of everything to come.
Well, let me see if there's an option to make this. Well, faster text speed might help. Damn.
Or that might have to go in the other direction. I don't know. Like, anyway, let's see. I don't know if this helps at all. Let's see, what's this got to do with me? You're worried about him. And what do I get in return? Hey, we're not doing this shit for free. B.
Hmm?
But you can still go. But you still can't go yourself. Okay. I'm guessing this is a but thou must situation. So all right, let's see what we can dig up. Har har har.
Is this where I insert the laugh track?
I just did.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Makes my job easier.
So if you're nicer to her, I think she's less mad at you. But
I mean, that's kind of why we're playing the game here. It's crafting the responses.
yeah, when I play this kind of game, I'm just usually really bad about not
Anyway,
fine. Don't be mean to the robot too. You heard her.
you're going to be following me around. And
I'm calling you 6.
this action will have consequences.
I was gonna say, 6 will remember this, but that works too.
So Emperor is correct.
Yay!
And Holy is correct.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Thought I remembered that.
All right,
Learn
now.
the ancient. Yeah, learn the ancient word for holy. Yeah. I mean, well, now we can go talk to this guy.
He looks like Cyril
Actually,
from
I need to go
Archer.
to the bathroom. I will be right back. Sorry.
All right. Let's see. I guess. Well, I mean, we'll proceed without him.
Well, yeah.
How are you? She has me running errands for her. Um, his name. I'm not pronouncing that. Let's see. What did he teach? I'll let you know. We have time. And Empress. Now the question is, banished or buried? Let's see, I'm trying to remember. Let's go with buried for the time being. Robots. Yeah. A. But I thought there weren't any robots in the Empire.
I guess to the ship.
Have you sailed before, 6?
Comforting.
And there's our timeline of events.
Yeah, which you can go back on sometimes.
Which will probably be handy for future installments of this series.
Uh-huh.
You know, like, it'll be 6 months since we loaded this up, and then, like, what, where are we? What are we doing? Oh, okay.
Right.
Which way do we go, George?
Well, I mean, that's kind of how it went in 80 days. Let's go with I don't see why Mayari can go herself.
Damn.
Hopefully we can make a profit on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, we're not working for free.
Now, it's possible to fuck this up.
So
Right.
just like life.
Yeah. And yeah, this is another one of the major mechanics. That is traveling.
So which one are we supposed to go to?
Well, the Siri. That's where we're supposed to go. You can tell by the we don't really have a reason to go any other place. We can go there, necessarily a thing that will benefit us, let's say. And that is another thing that will expand as we go through. Yeah. Now we're seeing the more artistic flourishes of Heaven's Vault here. Yeah. See, I'm not exactly sure if this is a Skyward Sword situation where we're above the clouds, or
It's a fantasy world. We're in between. Where this is what space is like here.
right. Yeah. And Petty Fan is trying to fight the headwinds.
Yeah, it's hard.
Uh-huh. And we get a lot of, let's say, corridor banter here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can go the wrong way, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's not an automatic thing. You actually have to steer your way to your destination.
Yeah, I think I remember when I played, I fucked it up and
Yeah.
accidentally went past.
Yeah. This is a much more active game than 80 Days.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. And we should probably wrap it here.
All right. This game autosaves, I'm guessing?
It does. If I'm, yeah, hit, yeah. Quitting here will just put us here on Maseri. So
Alright.
anyway, because yeah, it is 10:20, and we still have a topic of discussion to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. So I guess music time.
If you would.
Assuming Skype will fucking... Skype's being a pain in my ass today. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm. All right, welcome to the topic of discussion. This week we are talking about Final Fantasy V. Yeah, like everything was related this week. Like, because the Final Fantasy V Pixel Remaster is coming out soon. I'm trying to remember if we talked about Final Fantasy V previously, and it's possible, but we've done so many of these, like, repeat topics almost can't help but be well repeated.
Yeah, funny how
But
that
like
works.
But yeah, Final Fantasy V, aka this is the one that's really solidified the job system for Final Fantasy V. It's the one that took all the ideas from Final Fantasy III and threw out the bad parts, like that job punishment thing.
Mm-hmm. I would argue it's the one where they first. I mean, I'm not going to pretend it isn't still way more of a 1-3 game than a 2-4 game, but they tried to integrate some of the things that the 2-4 games have, where you're playing as characters that actually have an existence in the world aside from they came to town with the magic artifacts and now they're heroes.
Right.
3 remake excluded.
Right. This is definitely the what they call back the job system games with the most characterization thus far. They would finally manage to successfully fuse the two in Final Fantasy Tactics, but that is a tactical RPG spin-off, and thus its counting is perhaps dubious. So I guess the next one would be Final Fantasy X-2, if I'm remembering correctly. I know the dress spheres aren't.
Yeah.
I know the dress spheres aren't exactly the job system, but they're the job system. But anyway, yeah, Final Fantasy V is really the Final Fantasy that's codified what jobs mean in Final Fantasy. Outside of like the jobs that had already been established in the previous 4 games. Because once again, jobs have been a thing since the original Final Fantasy. Just by Final Fantasy V, we're starting to see the more interesting variants of jobs. Stuff like this is the final. I believe this is the Final Fantasy that introduced like the Blue Mage.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is definitely more original than the Red Mage, which was, kind of based off the Red Robes of Dragonlance, but, a
combination of that and then just the idea of, people who do swords but also magic.
Yeah.
Which was classically an elf thing in Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. It's just like the Red Mage in Final Fantasy tends to be typically jack of all trades, master of none, and that's why I've never liked the Red Mage, because
they usually can get most of the good sword equipment but aren't as good at using it.
Yeah.
Well, and there are always some important spells that they can't learn.
Yeah, they don't really get access to the top tier black or white spells. Like, you're not really going to have a red mage casting Flare or Holy or Ultima.
Hmm.
And that always turned me off from using them. Unless I had to, or it's something like this game where there are reasons to play as the red mage in terms of unlockability. So yeah, this is another thing that got changed from Final Fantasy III.
Yeah, they really put the blue mage front and center in this one because it is in the first set of classes you get from the wind crystal.
Right.
Red mage, I think, is a fire crystal class, which is the third one.
If I'm remembering correctly, yeah, I think it's fire crystal. Definitely a later job.
Yeah. Other than that, the wind crystal jobs are, stop me if this sounds familiar, knight, monk, thief, black mage, white mage.
Yeah. And,
but they swapped out the red mage for the blue mage. No, it is a water crystal job, so it's in the second set. But
yeah, there we go.
sorry,
it's fine. It's fine. Like, but yeah, the blue mage, in case people might not be familiar with that particular job class, that's the one that gets all the abilities from enemies. Like,
yes, in this game, the blue magic moveset keeps getting bolted onto other people in like every Final Fantasy between 5 and what 10-2 at least.
Yeah.
It gets put on a straight magician, a materia that anyone can use, a school teacher who learns spells by books instead of getting hit by them, a chef who learns spells by eating things instead of getting hit by them, a lion man who is mostly a dragoon but can like stab people with his spear and suck out their knowledge of spells. And then in 10-2, gun mage, which is it's classic blue mage except for they get guns. But in this one, they're pretty much red mages, except instead of learning lower level black and white magic, they learn specific enemy spells.
Right.
Which, as usual, includes certain really amazing spells, like some of the best healing and damaging spells in the game. But you have to be in a fight with an enemy that uses it, get hit with it, survive getting hit with it. And if it's a beneficial spell, usually you have to confuse or control the enemy into using it on you. And otherwise they get shit like Goblin Punch.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, Final Fantasy V's Blue Mage, you have to put some work into it. Like,
I think it's worth it, but that's just because I think they're really cool. So,
right, I'm just saying, like, keep in mind. So,
at least one of the passive abilities that blue mages have, and this being this game, you can be a blue mage, learn it, and give it to anyone else, is learning, which, if equipped, you don't have to be a blue mage to learn blue magic spells. You just have to do it to use it.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, other jobs established in this one were Time Mage and Mime. The Mime job class is Go-Go, who also reappeared in Final Fantasy VI, though nobody is sure if this Go-Go and that Go-Go are the same Go-Go. It is possible.
Signs point to yes.
Yeah. Because granted, there's just not a lot known about Go-Go in general. Like, everything about...
Yeah.
Yeah, everything about Go-Go is shrouded in mystery. Like,
yeah,
right now,
most classes in this game have attack. There are 4 command slots, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Every class except Mime and Berserker, I guess, has attack, their main class thing, and then 2 open slots, which at the beginning of the game you pretty much just put item in one of those.
Yep.
But you can put any other class that you've mastered an ability for, you can equip that thing in any class in other classes. And also from leveling up, for being in jobs for a while, you get some passive abilities in classes that you can also put in those slots. Mime has only one slot filled by default, and it is filled with the Mime action, which copies whatever the last person did.
Yep. And the Time Mage, they're the ones who use time magic, a new system of magic established in this one. In fact, there are a lot of systems of magic in this one.
Well, this is the second active time battle game. Time magic wouldn't have worked super well before that, considering I guess haste would just increase their things. I think some of them
Haste and slow were a thing since the beginning, but this is also the one that introduced Demi and those Quarter.
Yeah, time magic is not just time magic, it's time-space magic. So you also get gravity spells, which is what Demi and Quarter are.
Yeah.
And teleportation is time magic. Silence is time magic for some fucking reason. And also Meteor, because sure, why not?
Yeah.
Oh,
they would
this game has the unique debuff, I think, of old, which turns your hair white and makes you slower and weaker.
Yes. Anyway, so they overhauled and restructured the job classes in terms of leveling as well. Instead of just blanket getting more levels in a job, there are now a fixed amount of levels. Instead of getting like to say ninja level 99, you can only get up to level 10. But the trade-off there is every time you get a job level, you get an ability. Those are the things that are unlocked that you get put into the second slot. And
so when you're starting out as a knight, the first ability you get is cover, which lets you take hits for an ally who's in critical health. After a little bit of ability points, you permanently learn that ability, and then you can use it in other classes.
Yes.
For black and white mages, your leveling up just gets you more levels of black and white magic, pretty much, that you can cast in another class.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last ability for each one is like some passive thing.
Well, the last ability for each class is like a master class. Yeah,
it's MP pluses for both black and white magic is their last ability, which just increases your MP by a percentage, which is mostly notable because the freelancer job and the mime job, the freelancer is the one you start out as, you get all of the passive abilities of all of your classes.
Yeah, I'm like, so if you really want to, if you start mastering jobs, like you can make the freelancer skill overpowered. Like,
oh yeah, this is also the first game in which the chemist, which is one of the last crystal jobs, although mime is the last one you can actually get, has the mix command, which is always fun.
Yeah. Like I said, there was a lot introduced here. And, this is why it's considered to be of the mainline Final Fantasies, the best of the job games. Like I said, it took the job idea and refined it. It's why I could never get into Final Fantasy 3, because I played Final Fantasy 5 first. And it just on a systemic level, it's a better game than Final Fantasy 3. Now, I talked about it when we talked about Final Fantasy 3, but I'll repeat it here. Like, Final Fantasy 3 just always felt like the rough draft for Final Fantasy 5 for me. I know that.
Well, the job system was introduced in 3, but or the job system proper as a thing that you can change between and not something you choose at the beginning of the game. But in 3, a not insignificant number of classes, especially in the NES version, they changed it a bit in the 3DS version, are just upgrades. Like, you still have white mage and black mage, and then they upgrade into devout and magus, or white wizard and black wizard. You have conjurer, and that upgrades to summoner. You have fighter, and that upgrades, or onion knight, and then that upgrades, or warrior, and then that upgrades to knight. And then at the end you have thief and ninja, or sage and ninja, which make pretty much all of the other classes obsolete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas in this game, whereas in 5, every class does something different.
Yeah, and like I said, the biggest net positive was getting rid of the job restrictions. As in Final Fantasy III, if you switch jobs, you have to spend a number of battles getting used to the new job. And it's like the further away the job was from your old job, the more it took. And I get the logic behind this. It's a nod to, this is how this would realistically flow in real life. But it's like, my contention is, I'm not in reality here. I don't want to follow.
In 5, it just it's a stat. Basically, each job modifies the character's base stats, and when you change, it just overwrites it.
So for example, if you need to fight a boss battle that needs 4 Dark Knights, you can do that painlessly.
Yeah, I think the Dark Knight in this. Is there a Dark Knight in this? I don't think there is a Dark Knight in 5.
I don't think Dark Knight made it to this one.
I think Mystic Knight kind of does Dark Knight stuff in addition to being a cast spells through sword.
My point is, if you need 4 Geomancers, you can just have 4 Geomancers for a thing.
You do need 4 Geomancers, because there are some dungeons where you fucking take damage on floors, and Geomancer has a passive that makes you not do that.
Yeah.
I think this game also had Toad and Mini areas.
I don't remember those. Like, I don't remember that having those kind of dungeons, but it's been a while. I'll say
they're like small areas in a dungeon.
It could be. But yeah, so as mentioned at the beginning, Final Fantasy V here was the first attempt to give some attention to the story and to the characterization, all that stuff. And it's a definite improvement on Final Fantasy III, not just in terms of the heroes, in that they actually have identities now and personalities. And yes, I know those were all added in with the remake of Final Fantasy III, but that's a remake that came way after a lot of Final Fantasies.
Yes, that was at a point where they were learning from things that people didn't like about the original Final Fantasy III.
Yeah. So, but this is like the first time a job game. You have 4 or 5 identifiable characters. Won't get into spoilers there, but
you have 4 at a time.
Yeah.
Also in the non-original and Pixel remake versions, they also made 4 extra characters in the extra content, or classes in the extra content, that are kind of neat but complicated.
Yeah, we can get into that a bit later. But it's like you play as Bartz Klauser, or Butts, going back to the unofficial translations.
It's more like Butts.
Yeah.
Like, the T is doubled, the A is not long. But they changed it for the dub, for the English version, because Butts is a name that is impossible to take seriously.
Yes. And this is also a lighter Final Fantasy. I won't say it doesn't get heavy at points, but you compare this to like any of the story-driven Final Fantasy games, the even ones, Final Fantasy 2, 4, and 6, and yeah, this is definitely on the lighter side of things.
Yeah, it doesn't have too many like hugely dramatic moments. I mean, there's one where a castle gets burned down where you're inside of it, but any actual drama of that is mostly subsumed by the fact that escaping from the castle is a timed segment with random battles, and the clock ticks down during battle.
Yeah, and I think there's like a permanently missable item there.
There is at least one.
Yeah, yeah, that's another thing about Final Fantasy V. It's in the.
It's actually hard, yes.
Well, also you can miss stuff and it's gone permanently.
Uh-huh.
So and that's not changed. That's not going to be changed for the Pixel remaster. Like, if you want to get Carbuncle, use a guide.
Yeah, this is also, I think. No, Summoners. Rydia had to do shit to get to unlock her higher level summons in 4, and I think even in 3.
Yeah, but those weren't permanently missable. You can permanently miss summons in this game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, not necessarily great ones. Carbuncle's usually pretty good. It does reflect on you or something.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I think that's one of the ones that's permanently missable. Might not be, but my point is, there is missable shit. Let's see. Anyway, characters. Galuf Do is a mysterious old man who has amnesia because, of course, someone has to have amnesia in a goddamn Final Fantasy game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like Final Fantasy Law or something. Ferris.
In some games, everybody has amnesia. Spoilers.
Yeah. Ferris Swartz, who is a pirate. However you pronounce that. Is a cross-dressing pirate captain.
Who also has the best costume in like 3/4 of the classes. Don't at me.
I'm like,
yes, every character has a slightly different take on the costume for each class.
Yeah. Not sure if we're getting any sort of, let's say, modern identifications or pronouns adjustments.
I doubt they'll change the text at all. We'll be lucky if we don't get the fucking pirate translation again.
Yeah. Look, I actually suffered through that.
Do I even want to ask?
I mentioned this on Sunday.
Like
that's the official first translation of Final Fantasy V.
Yeah, this is one of the games that made Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy III when it was released in America, because they skipped like half of them up to that point, and this was one of the ones that got skipped, and possibly the most regrettable of the skipped ones. Probably the most regrettable of the skipped ones because it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But the first time it was translated was in a PlayStation collection alongside. Was this one packed with Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger?
Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, and in addition to having interminable load times, they hit Faris with the Talk Like a Pirate Day stick.
Oh, God.
Which, yes, she's a pirate captain, but she's also not always acting as a pirate.
Yeah. It's like a thick brogue. And let's see. Anyway, other characters. We've got Lena Charlotte Tycoon, who is our requisite princess, who is on it like a lot less damselly than a lot of video game princesses, though she does get captured at one point and always pissed me off because she's absent for a large chunk of the game and messes up with the experience points.
Yeah, that always annoys me when it happens. Lena's costumes are usually the most different from everybody else's because she's the girl. Either Lena or Gullif, because some things are modified by the fact that Gullif has a beard.
Yeah. Well, and you've also got Kryle Mayor Baldenson, whose role shall be undefined here.
And she's the other one whose things are different from everybody else. Actually, hers are different in a really weird way, because they made her. Everybody else's face is in profile, and Kryle's is not.
Right.
So every other character in their battle sprites, you can only see one eye.
Yeah,
and
she's like
Kryle. You could see both her eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as antagonists, like I said, this gave us first of all Exdeath, who is one of the lesserly impressive Final Fantasy villains, but
This game has some dramatic story moments. None of them involve Exdeath.
still, he's a better antagonist than, say, Xande, who just literally is mentioned a few times. Like, you really don't have a reason to fight him, except, the overall things. He's such a non-entity. Like your first meeting is when you fight him. That kind of thing. To say nothing of, like, the Cloud of Darkness, who's just a space flea out of nowhere. Like, for fuck's sakes, Garland/Chaos had more characterization than Xande.
Because he was at least Garland before he was Chaos.
Yes, and there was the beginning encounter. Like, when Final Fantasy 1 is doing something better than you are, you kind of fucked up. Okay? Especially in terms of stories and characterization. This is like literally the first one. You're supposed to improve upon that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, like I said, Exdeath is not a particularly impressive villain, but at least he's an actual antagonist who you.
Oh, we also get Gilgamesh.
Yes, this is the big This is the other big contribution, I'd say, to the overall Final Fantasy gestalt, and it's Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh appears in a lot of Final Fantasy games. He has appeared in Final Fantasy 8, 9, 12, 12-2, or no, 13-2 as a downloadable thing. Final Fantasy 4, the After Years, Dissidia 012, Final Fantasy 14, A Realm Reborn, and World of Final Fantasy. The thing about
it's all literally the same guy.
Yeah, because in Final Fantasy 5, he gets banished to the Cleft of the Void or something like that. And that means this is actually the thing that connects all the Final Fantasy games together. I think this is
minor spoilers about this game. Well, sort of. I guess it's kind of big spoilers, but it's not hugely important. You start out in one world, but it finds out that your world and another world had been split off. So for like a lot of the second chunk of the game, you're in the other world, and then at the end of the game, the worlds get smushed together because Exdeath does that.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is it's Galuf dies and Kryl will replace him if we're going full on spoilers.
Because she's his granddaughter. Yes.
Like, but yeah, and there is, and in terms of like the overall plot, this is pretty much the last time you will see the crystals for a good long while. I'm trying to remember when they brought them back.
I know they were
Tactics Advance at latest.
Yeah,
like I know they were used in 14 at least for a bit, but then they kind of went to the back burner on those.
Also, specifically in the sense of there are 4 elemental crystals that regulate the forces of the world.
Yeah, and that's that whole regulation thing is kind of the crux of the whole, at least the beginning part of the plot, because because if you think video games aren't political, here's an environmental message from this game in 1992.
At least it's not as bad as Eternal Sonatas.
I'm like
40 minutes end credit scene of "Don't do drugs, kids."
Right, but it's still this use of technology is draining the crystal's power and causing the world to become stale. And, overuse of the crystalline resources will doom the world. Initially because these are the regulations of those elements. Without the wind crystal, the wind won't blow. And that's actually a plot point in the beginning. It gets diffused later on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, they kind of maybe not undermine their environmental message, but they certainly forget about it once we get to World 2. Because, like when the worlds fuse together, apparently the elements work now. Or something. Like, they really didn't resolve that. Or, if they did, it's such an afterthought that because it always bothered me. Because they made it such a big deal about, the elements being connected to the crystals. But it ends up not mattering that much in the long run. Turns out the bigger danger wasn't, the loss of the fire or the water or the wind. It's the fact that a tree wizard was imprisoned by these crystalline forces.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And yeah, that's the other thing that should not be a spoiler if you've played any Final Fantasy game that references him, which there have been several, including Tactics Advance. X-Death's true form is like some kind of fucking magic tree thing.
He's like an oak tree.
He's disguised as a Golbez cosplayer for a good chunk of the game.
Yes.
But he's actually a tree.
And a splinter for a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I'm sure we could talk a lot more about Final Fantasy V, but we're about 15 minutes away from last news desk time, so
we didn't even talk about the 4-job challenge.
No, we did not.
But that's okay.
The 4-job fiesta where you only can pick one job from each of the crystals, but we don't really have time to
pick. You go to a site and it assigns them randomly.
Yeah. Point is, we don't have time to get into that, and so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. The week ahead, as mentioned beforehand, no Friday show because of life. We do expect a episode of Last News Desk on the Left in about 10 minutes. We haven't gotten any cancellation notifications, knock on wood. And the Sunday reviews, as soon as I get to the proper page here. I hate that. Apologies for this. But anyway, we will be having reviews of... No, that's last week's. Of Puzzle Forge Dungeon, Virtuous Western for the PlayStation 4, War Solution, casual math game for the Nintendo Switch, and Original Journey. So be sure to tune in for all of that at the requisite times, and join us for the Last News Desk. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.